I read this quote the other day, this line in a book, and it really made me sit back and think. And the sentence is, clarity comes from doing, not thinking about doing. And I thought to myself, like I read that and I sort of went, what? Wait a minute. And then I was like, that is so true. We don't get clarity by sitting there thinking about the thing. It only becomes clear when we actually start to do the thing. Just like in our previous episode, Tracy, when you were talking about your pond that you have put in the back garden, it started off as just that, but the clarity of what you wanted has come forth in the fact that you have been doing all of the planting and all of the things to create that end result that you actually want.
Mhm.
And I think we have it backwards. I think sometimes we often sit there and think, well, I'm just going to think about, I'm going to get clear on this, on what it is that I want, and then I'll be able to start doing it. And I just wonder if you guys have that thought of, should we be thinking about it first, or do we do it and it creates the clarity along the way?
Personally, I think it's a little bit of both.
Hmm.
I do think sometimes you have to understand the clarity or something, or otherwise you could end up jump, 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 jump. Like what I mean, let's just say, I don't know, is it something, a change? Could it be starting a business or starting a new exercise program or change eating habit? I think you have to understand why do you want to do it?
Hmm.
And then say, yeah, but I'm not quite sure how to go about it. Then you should, to me, then that's where the overthinking comes. Like you're
Hmm.
waiting for all of this, like I'm not sure how, and this and that. And sometimes, like you say, clarity comes in the actions. So I think there's a little bit of both. I think you could get stuck in what they call the analysis paralysis.
Mm.
Is that it? Yeah. And
Paralysis
then,
by analysis.
yeah, same. I knew I was saying it somewhere wrong. But then I do think that clarity comes from action. And I do think each one of us is an example of that. And the reason why I say that is um, if we were to go back to the beginning of us recording our very first one and what we were doing in our businesses to where we are now, I bet you will see there's a transition, and that probably came from clarity of what we really wanted to do with our
Hmm.
business.
Hmm.
But back then, or even today, if we just sat and thought about it, we would have never gotten that clarity unless we started doing
Mhm.
it. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah. I
Absolutely.
mean, it was the
Yeah.
purposeful, we did, I think, some episodes on what we really wanted to create with this channel, what we wanted to help provide our viewers with, and then started to do that. And it's always, I think, it's always going to morph. I think sometimes you have an idea of, okay, this is why we're doing this, and that gets fulfilled, and then it morphs into something different. Just like, okay, I want a pond in my backyard. Okay, so the pond got done. Now it's morphed into something even clearer and better than what you had originally thought. Or maybe you had that vision when you thought about your pond in the first place, Tracy. I don't know.
Mm, kind of, but not really. I just
Mm.
went on, looked a bunch of ponds and said, well, how can I
Pinterest.
take this and do something with it, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
then
But
it
Mm.
there was action. There was action taken,
Yeah.
like
absolutely.
Yes.
action taken. You even looked up like things. You didn't just sit there thinking about it. And
Right.
that's where people get stuck.
But
And
we grew up in it. when you were supposed to have it perfect before you showed anyone,
Oh yeah.
before you get back there and do it again until it's absolutely 100% perfect. And that's what we were brought up on. So, and then I'm sure I reflected that back to my kids.
And I was just going to say that I do think that's still forward in this day and age
Mhm.
sometimes. I think it might have been a little worse now because we have all the social media that everybody sees all this perfection
Right.
out there. That's a false perfection that everyone thinks they have to have everything in line before they move forward with anything.
Mhm.
And I know we've done episodes. You don't gain confidence unless you have action. You know, clarity unless you do action. You get you stay in your comfort zone. Nothing changes. Like all of this is, and I do think you're right, Tracy G. We were brought up that way.
Mhm.
Or if you were to say, to I know if I was to say to my mother or my dad, hey, I'm going to start a business, and he'll be like, well, what's that like? And I'll be like, well, I'm still working through that, but I'm going to be moving forward with this. They'd be like, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? What do you mean you're just going to start moving forward with it? And I think now within social media, people look at these influencers, and I'm not putting anybody down, but there's not always the true um, reflection of
No.
what it took that person to get where they are.
Yeah.
And I also think that people forget that when you take action for clarity. So now you learn what happens when obstacles come up. You don't get obstacles when you're thinking of it, right? You might go, oh, what
Right,
if this happened? What if this happened? But that's not real world. You actually have obstacles,
Mhm.
which then create confidence for you because you figure them out. Either, however you choose to figure them out. So you wouldn't have got that confidence had you just
right.
thought, I'm gonna
Mhm.
think about this pond. I'm gonna do okay. Well, here's I got confidence troubleshooting that we have some rocks in the back that need to get pulled out. Whatever, right? But you have to experience it to know the good and the bad.
Yes, totally do. So that's why I think, Tracy E., there's both.
Mm.
You do a little thought, but
Mhm.
you have to have action along with it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it really is. Action is the key to so many different things, right? Because you can sit and think as much as you want, but that doesn't change anything. It's
no,
not going to, you're not going to manifest anything simply by thinking it.
no,
You have to do something in order to work towards that final idea. There has to be action that takes place.
yes, yes.
And
That is,
sometimes along that path, you get to change your mind about whatever it was that you thought that you were going to create. And you're like, maybe not. Maybe this is what I want to do instead
Mhm. But you wouldn't have got there.
without
if you didn't
action.
take action.
That's it.
So I think that's our biggest, and I think we've also learned that. I've learned that a lot. I know through, even when I trained for that race that I did a few years back, you don't realize what it takes with until you do action and how the mindset plays with it. And clarity, sometimes we think, oh, clarity is I'll think about it and it'll become clear. Well,
Mhm.
it depends on the story you're telling yourself also within finding that thinking of that clarity. So if you are somebody who, as I was, had that imposter syndrome or you have that self-doubt, thinking through the clarity, you're just going to probably talk yourself out of wherever you're trying to get clarity from. But when you started taking action and saw things develop, hmm, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do my race. Maybe I can. And I failed my race a couple times before I completed it. And that was okay. That was fine because in the long run, I ended up completing it.
Because it gave you more clarity.
Yeah.
right? It gives you more
Yep.
clarity on what it is. Oh, I didn't realize this part. Oh, I didn't realize
Yeah.
that part. So
Yep.
now I see this even clearer and bigger. So
Yep.
I now know what the action is that I need to do. I think from a visual standpoint, that's the easiest analogy is to, think of the person who wants to get fit and they're sitting on the couch thinking, I really want to get
Yep.
fit. I
Fit.
really want to get fit.
Yep.
I really want to run a race.
Yeah. And then here's the kicker. You run a race or you're training to run a race or you think about it and then you go back on and I would do the comparison. Well, I'm not
Mm.
as fast as her. I'm not as
Mm.
fast as that. Look, I struggle here. I struggle. I can't do it. But what I ended up doing was finding my own way to do the race.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with it.
Hmm.
Nobody said, yeah, you finished the race, but you know what? You only did this many minutes per mile. You really didn't, even though you finished it, you didn't. There was none of that.
Hmm.
It was you finished the race.
And that's beautiful because a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Like people will finish a half marathon and go, yeah, but it was just a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't really count because it wasn't the full
Yeah.
marathon, you know?
Right.
And like it's like, yeah, I did the race, but you know what? There was a lot of walking in that race that I did. Like it doesn't really
No.
count.
Or
So,
I
sorry, so
did
you know
finish
how
the
we
marathon.
talk about procrastination is like an excuse? Do you think comparison
Hmm.
is the same? Like we go,
Hmm.
I'm going to compare, like you just said. And so if I compare enough times, there's my excuse for not even moving forward
Oh,
because
for sure.
Yes, absolutely. You're looking at, you're not looking internally at what you completed. You don't feel your self-worth is worthy of accepting that you completed the marathon or the race because in your mind you see these elite people doing things
Mhm.
in record speed. So you're not validating yourself
Mhm.
enough. You're putting your completion of that on their completion, not on your
Mhm.
own.
Mhm.
So absolutely, absolutely, you know,
That's why we say run your own race, not
yeah.
somebody
exactly.
else's, right? Like
Yes.
that's
Yep.
it's so critically important. But people do that a lot. They discount their achievements. It's like, and sometimes when people set even big goals for themselves, they get to the end and they don't celebrate it. And it's like
Hmm.
it becomes this dull thing. And it's like I got to get on to the next thing.
Mhm.
What's the next one, Instead of really reveling in what it is that we've accomplished. Because it's corny that it's the journey they always say that is the best part, but it is the best part. It's all the things you learn about yourself and whatever that the final thing, whatever that thing happens to be, is just kind of you know, it's the final glory of all that you've put into it to get to that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You
Go
think
ahead,
of how
Tracy
we
J.
treat kids though, eh? So everything, it's like, oh, you almost got your first step, and you're just give them so much support and everything. And then at a certain age, we stop doing that to ourselves.
I
We do
know.
the
Hmm.
I
exact
Yep.
know.
opposite. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you took your first step. Who cares? You're not running yet, right? Like
Yeah.
it's weird.
Mhm. Right. But that's an excellent point. I think if and sometimes I've done this with myself. If I find myself with that same thought process, like that comparison, I'd be like, okay, if my son, as we've talked about, or Amber, who's been on the show before, if they were like, you know what, yeah, you finished the race, but you know what? There were people who did it better than you, so you really didn't. Well, I would never say that to her. Like I would never say that to this woman who just finished when she finished her 250 miler. Like, or if she had like a half hour to spare to make it in time. Well, you only had a half hour spare. You could have probably gotten a better time in. I would have never said that to her. So why
Mhm.
do we say that? So if you picture that person in front of you
Mhm.
that you love, your child or whatever, would you say that to them?
Yeah.
If you wouldn't, then don't say it to yourself.
I think it gets taught to us though. Like it gets taught to us at an early age. Like just and not I don't think it's done like, oh well, it's not done like from a mean standpoint or trying to make you feel bad standpoint, but people compare people all the time. You think about kids in school, well, Bobby's playing soccer, but better than you. Like the coach says something like that, or your teacher says something about, if you studied as hard as, Jane, then you would be excelling at this, right? It's like we get taught that, and I think that becomes something that we go, oh, that's what we're told to do. So therefore, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start comparing myself against other people.
But I know I was the type of person, and I still can be at times. Sometimes it takes that one person to say that negative thing, like you could
Hmm.
have studied as hard, you could have
Hmm.
ran faster, and there could have been 100 people applauding you. And we ignore that 100 people
Yeah.
Yeah.
applauding us,
Hmm.
and we fixate on that one
Hmm.
person who said you could have studied harder.
Hmm.
That's where I think things get convoluted also.
Absolutely. But we're geared for that, right? Like our brains
Hmm.
are geared for a
Looking
negative
for it. We're
bias.
looking for
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
we're looking for it. Absolutely. So it takes, I think you go through all of this and then you come out and you go, oh, wait a minute. I don't actually have to think this stuff.
right.
I get to make a choice. I get to, whatever. And we start to learn that at whatever age it is that we are,
Yep.
to figure that kind of stuff out. But yeah, like I literally think it's where we go. I mean, if we could somehow figure out, can you imagine if you could somehow figure out to teach little people never to compare themselves against somebody else,
Yep.
run your own race, stay in your own lane, and
I
just
think
do the
I
best you
think
can.
we can by the old saying, lead by example.
Hmm. Hmm.
Lead by example.
Hmm.
Your voice also, how you talk to yourself and how you talk to others. And we've had these conversations, but people see how you talk to yourself, even though it's in your brain, because when it's in your brain, somehow you're projecting that out, you know?
Well, even if you
Oh,
speak it, it's like
yeah,
it's like it doesn't really matter that I'm saying this about me.
right,
This isn't
right.
affecting anybody else.
No, we've talked about it. Do you
Hmm.
accept the compliment? No, we make an excuse
Hmm.
for the compliment. Oh, oh, you like my hair? I didn't even wash it today. Really? Oh, the glasses? Like, no, these are old things. I just have them and I put them on. We always deflect things on that mannerism. And I know we're getting kind of off on a tangent here, but
It's a
I
good
think
one.
I think
Yeah.
it's all pieced together,
Hmm.
Yeah, and
you
I want to
know?
say the comparison though, but you can be inspired. And I think that's where the
Yes.
difference. You can be inspired by people and look at them and go, "Oh, they're doing that. I want to do that." Just don't compare yourself to them. Or where's
Right.
your,
And
your timeline, right? What
Yeah.
time,
yes,
where are you at on your timeline compared to them? Be
and
inspired.
that's an excellent point because
Hmm.
I bet you going to almost 100%, if you were to reach out to that person and ask them a question, they will tell you how many times they probably failed
Mhm,
before they became successful. And we don't see that part.
Hmm.
We only see the successful part. We don't see how they got there. If you listen to the story like Sarah Blakely, or if you listen to the story of different people like that, Oprah Winfrey, if you listen to the story, if my son Jason, who's one of these 7 people who have completed this elite race that happens in Vermont, if you know how many times he failed at it,
mhm.
if you know how many times he's failed at races, you wouldn't look at him and say, well, that kid ran 551 miles in 10 days. I
Yeah.
can't do that. But no one asked him how many times he failed before he did that. We just look at what they did. And sometimes I think that's the question we have to ask. Like, what obstacles did you come up against? What did you hit? What was the hardest part of this to run a race, start a business? you know, raise a child, do whatever, find a new job. What was the hardest part? That's how we I think we can move forward a little bit more.
That's how we
And
get clarity.
that I was just going to say
Clarity.
that. That's how we get clarity. Awesome.
What do you think, viewer? How do you think you find clarity? Do you sit and think about it, or do you start to take action? Do you get involved in analysis paralysis or overthinking or comparison? Did this episode help you? Share this episode with somebody that you think this could help. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure that you hit the like button and notifications so you know when our next episode comes out. Until next time.
Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you as a regular member of our community.